Thank you, Becky, for that children's story. I've seen that happen, seen wrecks happen minutes in front of me. And it's so fast that you're like, did that really happen? We were coming up one time, and it was right here in the middle of town, right in front of Washington College. And as we were driving, this car just accelerated up to like 50 miles an hour and turned and smashed right into a light pole right in front of us. And it happened so fast that me and my coworker, I said, did that just happen? And as we drove by, already 2 emergency people jumped out. One was calling and the other was like seeing if they were all right. But it was a split second. If we'd looked that way or we hadn't really focused, we wouldn't have seen it. Just let you know, times are dangerous. They always have been, but pray for people. Pray for travel mercies. Thank you for singing, Soraya. She just raced out. If you missed her Bible study today, you missed a blessing. It's like a master class. You know, if you see them advertised online, learn from the best. Now, it helps that she's assistant editor for that. So she helped write it or edited who wrote it. So she gets in deep there, but it is always a blessing. All right. And thank you for David for at the last minute me changing up the verse. The reason I did that is because I think that verse really, it was speaking of Judas. Judas is the only person in the Bible that Jesus said it would have been better if you'd never been born. No one else. That's good news for the rest of us. Think about that way. Since we just went through Memorial Day, I was looking at it, and I was compelled to go a different direction. I had a different way of looking at this. So I shifted it, and I apologize to anybody that this is hard for. This is going, I'm glad you're here. Okay, where did she go? Oh. You are the only 2 people that really remember World War II, I think. Right? Right. All right. For the rest of us, I'm going to give you a little update. World War II, depending on what country you're in, started in 1936. Most of the war, 1939 to 45. It was the real second time the whole world went to war, but this one was a little bit more devastating than that one. 75 million people were killed in the world. Of that, 25 million were military, the soldiers. That was their job, right? 50 million others died of disease or death camps, sickness, starvation. 145 million people were displaced. That's half the population of the United States, displaced. That means they were moved from where they wanted to be to somewhere they don't want to be, or they ran away from something they didn't want to be involved in. In Europe, 55 million people were displaced. 20 million from just the fleeing from the Nazi regime. I'm going to tell a story. This is going to be from a point of view of a member of the NSB, which was the Nationalist Party of the Netherlands. So I apologize for this again. I have a word of prayer. Dear Jesus, we thank you so much that you loved us. You loved us before we knew who you were. You loved us despite all our failings. despite our self-loathing, despite how we act and how we continue to act. You always have open arms for us. We love you, Jesus. Amen. My name is Jan Vogel. Germans call it Wugel. I was born in 1890, around there. I studied to be a watchmaker in the Netherlands. But since World War I, since the world at war, we've been devastated as an economy. The whole world is in a downturn. People don't have jobs. People don't have places. People don't have a livelihood. But there's a new thing rising. Our neighbor has put a new leader in. And Adolf Hitler has revitalized Germany. He's brought it up from the lowest level it has ever been. In just a few years, he's made it into a great country. I was drawn to the National Party, NSB. I was drawn because they had great singing. They sang things that made my heart feel strong, powerful. They brought back that we are a great nation. We are great people. All we need to do is clear out some of the problem areas. I was drawn to that music. Now, my Dutch neighbors, they weren't so appreciative. We only won 4% of the popular vote. But we knew we were right. We just had to wait. And finally, 1939, our time had come. We were invaded by our freedom-fighting brothers, the Germans. I was so relieved. My heart lifted. I felt, this is our time. We're going to be a great nation again. I joined a secret branch, and my job was to infiltrate radical cells. One of that group were people helping the Jews. We estimated 25 million were hiding. We had already rounded up 75 million of them. But 25 million were hiding all through our great country. So I went undercover. I moved. I was so successful that I had to leave one area and go to a new area. There I remembered my former employer, Casper Von Boom. He was also a watchmaker. He was very progressive, always reading the Bible, always giving people second chances. He even let his daughter become a licensed watchmaker. She was the first one in all of Netherlands. He even gave a homeless man who he found out had been a watchmaker a job. Always talking about the Bible. Had no room for that. The NSB had been condemned by every religious organization. It's the only thing that brought the Protestants and the Catholics together. They both condemned our membership. But I helped at least 10 families be caught. And you know my reward? $7.50 guilders. It's about $2 for each Jew I turned in. I did it with a zeal. I was really good at it. I started running out names. As it got down into the 1944, I was running out of people. But then I remembered Casper. I know he had a good heart. I knew they were doing something with the resistance. I'd heard rumors. So I made this plan. I went there, and I knew Casper might not listen. But I asked for his daughter, Ori. I said, I have a wife and she's been arrested by the Gestapo, and I need to do a bribe to get her free. Can you help me? And she did. She was suffering, she was sick, but she still gave me money. I turned that information over. A day later, they raided that house, caught 30 people. Now, there was no Jews in the group, which was strange. But regardless, I turned them over. But then the war ended. They treated us badly. The women that had boyfriends and girlfriends, they beat. Anybody who's had a German boyfriend, they shaved her head, made her walk in the streets. Then it got worse. They started estimating 250,000 people had collaborated with the Germans. I knew I was on that list. They arrested me in 1945. I felt, this is not going to turn out well, especially when they started bringing forth witnesses. You know, I didn't think about what happened to those Jews when I sent them off. I just did what was expected. I did it really good. But then the trials began. They tried 4,500 people for being collaborators in that first year. I think I helped 80 people get arrested. I think their numbers were wrong, but then they started giving their testimonies. I never thought where they went. I just did my job. But I found out they went to places that we called concentration camps. One was all for women, Ravensbrück. And there, my friend Casper, his daughters went, Betsy and Corey. I'd met Corey, I never had met Betsy. I heard she was very spiritual, praying for people. But at Ravensbrück, they were brought in, and within 2 hours of arriving, their hair was cut, all their personal belongings were piled up. Those would become treasures for somebody else. Then they were forced to walk naked in front of all the guards, where they were deloused and given rags to wear. Ravensbrück had been built as an all-women's facility to house 15,000 women. During the trial came up, 55,000 women had been put in there. 400 women in each dormitory have been boosted up to 1,400 women. They lived on racks that they'd built across. There was multiple layers. They had 8 working toilets per dorm, but they weren't working. They'd overflowed years before. There was fleas, there was lice. It was horrible. The more they talked, the more I realized I had put people there. They didn't just sit there. They were a forced labor camp. First, they made them build the next camp over, which they added some men to. Then they forced them to start building roads and some runways. Some of these were 50 and 60-year-old women having to do this forced labor. Some of them were picked to do experiments with. Some of them were picked to be sexual partners. Maybe make a new line, have babies. Some were just killed. In fact, the commander of the place liked to have women fight to the death for his entertainment. He'd promise them freedom if they killed somebody else right in front of him. Some refused. in that place, I put people. And I started realizing what I've done. I've been arrested. I'm in Schweigen prison. At my trial, I watched the people testify against me. Well, the ones that survived. And the letters started. They slid them under the door at night. Sometimes they were folded pieces, very nicely done. Sometimes they were crumpled pieces just shoved through the bars. Like they were ashamed of them. I used to leave them on the floor, being too proud to pick them up, too proud to bow to whatever the guards wanted. But over time, I read them. I read them all. My husband's name was Brom. He was a watchmaker too. Perhaps you passed his shop. He had a laugh that filled the room. My daughters have not laughed since the day they took him. I want you to know his name. I want you to carry it. I want it to be the last word you hear. Brom, I say the name out loud. I yell it. The words bounce off the wall. The walls don't move. I'm here. I'm breathing. Brom is not. Nothing that I've learned makes that balance out, the equation. I used to love math, but the math doesn't add up anymore. I believe the stories about order and prosperity, that a new age was coming, that things would get better if we just went back to the good old days. I heard the singing. I found myself singing along with it. Felt it in my chest. I thought this is what matters. But now I realize that's not what mattered. I felt I was swimming, but really I was drowning men and women. I wasn't swimming at all. For 7 guilders and 50 cents, I'd sold people to death. I started thinking I'm quite good at not thinking about this. I realized you can't hide from yourself. Another letter. My mother hid for 3 years in space behind a wardrobe. 3 years of silence and darkness and fear. When they came for her, it was because someone spoke. Was it you? I do not know if it was you, but it was someone like you. I hope you see her face. I hope it's the only thing you see. I remember that first woman watchmaker, Corrie ten Boom. I went to her with a lie so well constructed. She had to distrust at first. I was convincing. She gave me the money. She looked at me with eyes of hurt, worry. She worried about my fake wife. She worried about the situation I was in. I think about those eyes every night since the war ended. I've heard she started to write a book. Right about the shame that I put her through. At that moment, she had seen somebody worth saving. But I just seen money, power. I heard her father died in the hospital 10 days after he was there. 10 days after my betrayal. Her sister also died in Ravensbrück. Betsy was her name. I didn't know it until the trial. Betsy ten Boom, 59 years old, dead of starvation. in a German concentration camp. Because I went to Harlem with a story about a wife and a bribe, and 30 people were arrested. Another letter. You will hang, and when you do, I will feel nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction. Because nothing that happens to you can give me back 1 hour of what was taken. Your death is not justice. It is only an ending. You do not deserve the dignity of it meaning something. Someone told me, a guard I think, that Betsy's sister, Corey, is traveling now. She's speaking to churches and in basements of burned out churches. She went back to Germany to talk there. He's telling people there's no pit so deep that God's love cannot reach it. Supposedly her sister had told her that when they were in the concentration camp. I turned the sentence over for a long time. No pit so deep. I am at the bottom of a pit, and I am the one who dug it. And I do not know whether she means a man like me is included in that sentence, or whether I simply am in the darkness at the bottom and the light has not found me. I cannot pray. I open my mouth and nothing comes, not words, not silence. Something worse than silence is the absence of where a self used to be. I believe it. I used to believe. The marching and the singing, the certainty that we were right. I believed it so much I made it my profession, this believing in that. Now there's nothing left to believe in, least of all myself. I pick up another letter. I do not hate you, I have tried. Hatred at least would be something warm. What I feel for you is colder than that. You are a hole in the world shaped like a man. And when we take you out of this world, that hole will simply close. We will not remember the shape of it for long. This is unsigned. Hole shaped like a man. I read that 3 times. I folded it very carefully, put it under my mattress, and lay on top of it. Stare at the ceiling. So accurate, isn't it? I do not ask for pity. I am past the vanity of asking for anything. I only want to say that there is no one to say it to. Guards don't talk to me. The other prisoners don't talk to each other. Perhaps that's fitting. I understand now what I did not understand that a man can be fully convinced and be fully wrong. That belonging to something is not the same as being right. That the singing was real, the feeling was real, but it led to Ravensbrück. It led to the Brom, the watchmaker. It led to Betsy Ten Bomb dying in the cold. Feelings are not a compass. Certainly it is not truth. In a new age, it turns out, can be the oldest darkness wearing a new coat. I'm not asking God to forgive me. I'm not sure I had that right. I'm only asking to understand before the end whether a man who has done what I have done is still, in any sense, in that matter, a man at all. Another letter slid under the door. This time it came with a book. Pick it up. It's the New Testament of the Holy Bible. It falls open to Romans 3:23. For all have sinned and fallen short of the glory of God. That's me. I flip it over in Revelation 21:8. But as for the cowardly, the faithless, the detestable, as for the murderers, The sexually immoral, sorcerers, idolaters, and all liars, their portion will be in the lake that burns with fire and sulfur, which is the second death. That is me. I'm a coward, a murderer, and a liar. Death is what I deserve. And I pick up the letter. It's from Corrie ten Boom. She's the sister of Betsy. It's January 19th, 1945. Dear Sir, today I heard that most probably you are the one who betrayed me. I went through 10 months of concentration camp. My father died after 9 days of imprisonment. My sister died in prison too. Oh, it's starting the same as all the others. The harm you planned was turned into good for me by God. I am nearer to him. A severe punishment is awaiting you. No. But I have prayed for you that the Lord may accept you if you repent. I have forgiven you everything. God will also forgive you everything if you ask him. If it is difficult for you to pray, then ask if God will give you his Spirit, who works in faith in your heart. I hope that the path you will now take will work for your eternal salvation. Corrie ten Boom. The first time I cry ashamed. Open up the Bible again. See the verses. John 3:17 and 18. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that the world through him might be saved. He who believes in him is not condemned, but he who does not believe in the condemned already, because he has not believed in the name of the only begotten Son. That you could forgive me is such a great miracle that I have said, Jesus, you have given me the love of your followers, and there is hope for me. This is the letter I sent back to Corrie. It's that one sentence. I know in a few days I'll be killed. I have a hope. Ezekiel 36:24-28. For I will take you out of the nations. I will gather you from the corners and bring you back into your own. I will sprinkle clean water on you, and you will be clean. I will cleanse you from all your impurities and from your idols. I will give you a new heart and put a new spirit in you. I will remove from you the heart of stone and give you a heart of flesh. And I will put my spirit in you and move you to follow my decrees and be careful in keeping my laws. You will live in the land I give you, your ancestors. You will be my people, and I will be your God. Then I turn to Matthew 6:12. And it's the Lord's Prayer. And that verse comes to me. And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Corrie had forgiven my debts. I know God has too. Thank you.